Well, hello and welcome or welcome back to the Social Media Magic Podcast. I am so glad you're here. My name is Brittany Varlanich. I'm a content strategist, social media manager, total marketing nerd, and I'm the host of this show. Welcome. So today we're going to be talking about really my whole philosophy, why I built this brand, why social media and these things I talk about, like blogging, like building a personal brand, like getting on Threads. Why are those things so important? Because I think many people come into these businesses, these e-commerce businesses especially, and I know that not everybody who listens would call themselves an e-commerce business owner. Like maybe you are a service provider who also sells digital products. Maybe you're a coach who also has an online shop or a Shopify store. So you might not think of yourself as a digital shop owner or an e-commerce brand. But I would say we've really reached that weird point online where everything is kind of converging. I would say at this point, even if your sole business offering is a printables shop, you really do also have to use your personal brand, especially in the age of AI and automation. It is so hard to see what's real. It might feel kind of weird thinking, why do I have to build a brand? Why do I have to build a community around my printables, around my physical product? But it's actually true. If you look at these big brands, even the ones that we consume and shop at all the time, they all have very strong brands and they do connect with their followers, with their customers, with their audience. One that comes to my mind immediately is Wendy's. Wendy's is a fast food place of all places, right? Like I don't think about Wendy's in my daily life until I pass by them. And I don't even really like their food, so I really never think about them. But I love their social media presence because they have really decided what they want their brand voice to be, how they want to show up online. And you just know when you interact with Wendy's unhinged content online, like that is their thing, okay? It is their thing to not be aesthetically pleasing, to kind of have like boomer speak, and they own it. And the thing is, they have made this language with their followers that is so strong. They have such a strong community that people go to the Wendy's page like on their own. They will go search Wendy's in the Facebook search bar, in the Instagram search bar to go find it, which I think is just so amazing. I think it's really amazing what Wendy's has done. So even if you have quote unquote just a printables shop or just products on TPT, just products on Etsy, just printables on Amazon KDP, I think you have an opportunity as well to develop and build your personal brand and to put yourself out there. And I think you're going to find more opportunities as a result of it. I'm a huge fan of that. So that really brings us to the title namesake of this episode, which is Marketing Beyond the Marketplace, or why we need to market beyond the marketplace. I think the why is probably very obvious to anyone who's experienced dips in sales, in traffic, or anything in the last couple of years, especially this last year. These last 365 days have been absolutely wild with SEO, search engine optimization. I have been blogging since 2018, and I have never seen anything like this. There have been so many Google algorithm updates. Social media platforms have come and gone. All kinds of things are happening all the time. But I think because those cycles are so fast and so visible, we can fall into the trap of believing mistakenly that those things don't also happen to the quote-unquote more reliable platforms too. I mean, just think about Google. How many people do you know, even influencers, podcasters, YouTubers, creators, who would say things like, I only focus on Google because it's reliable, or I focus on Pinterest because it consistently brings me traffic, which we've all seen Pinterest change a lot. They had a major identity crisis a couple of years ago. It seems only now they're starting to get back to where they were in their former glory days. We cannot make the mistake of getting comfortable or complacent and thinking that any success we've had anywhere is always going to be there. One, that is just a great lesson in life and in business. But two, this is the same with our marketing. We cannot assume that whatever we're doing right now, the techniques, the tactics, all of that is going to still work in a year or honestly even a month. Like I think about the rate of growth with AI and just like how there are literally new apps being released every single day. Like what an amazing thing that is. I don't know if there's ever been a time before where technology has developed that rapidly, say for maybe the Industrial Revolution and the dot-com era. For those of you who are old enough to remember 2001, 99, 2000, everybody was going online. In 2020, we had another gold rush online, but imagine businesses who had built 50 to 200 years of reputation and they had to go online in the early 2000s. Now in the 2020s, we have this second gold rush. And I think AI was a big part of that. You're really seeing the rise and fall of that. Actually, just this week, ChatGPT, or I should say OpenAI, they just released a new model that can now do reasoning. So now you can do math, you can do multi-step word problems. It's honestly pretty incredible. incredible. So if you've been thinking, if you're a teacher especially, you're still in the classroom and you're like, my math classes are still safe. My math resources are still safe. AI is coming for that too. So I just don't think we can ever get complacent. And it makes sense why we would, because it is so natural. It is so human for us to want to go to things that feel comfortable, for things that we feel like we know. So one thing I always heard was, I stay on the marketplace because it's reliable. All of my traffic comes from TPT, therefore I'm going to focus on TPT. That's logical. I couldn't knock anybody for thinking that, but if you only put all of your eggs in the TPT basket and TPT goes down, there goes your income. I see it all the time in Facebook groups where sellers will say something like, I've been selling for 10 years, 12 years, this is so unfair, they're going after old sellers, and I totally understand where they're coming from. Like, my heart truly does break for these people. At the same time, I don't think it's personal, right? I think that these companies, which they are companies, right? Teachers Pay Teachers, Google, Amazon, these are all independent companies that we are building our own businesses and brands on. And we have to be cognizant of that these businesses have their own agendas, they have their own financial goals, their own bottom line that they have to protect and preserve. If they're publicly traded, they have different shareholders. I mean, every business has stakeholders, whether they're public or not. So they have other people who are vested in their success and they're interested in that. But especially if it's a publicly traded company, they have people who have bought stocks. So they technically share ownership. Their voices matter too, right? We can never take these things personally. And honestly, I just don't think that's a very productive place for us to be, to sit there and think, well, things should be this way. I wish things were different. Things used to be better. Definitely feel that way. But then there comes a point where you have to say, okay, so obviously that is not working. What I was doing, the way the platform was, something changed. Now what am I going to do? That is a space I like to stay in as much as possible. I'm human. So of course I get sad, right? I get upset. I get indignant sometimes, but I don't think that's productive in the long run. One thing that we've all learned, even if we haven't learned it explicitly or outwardly, is that we cannot rely on any one person or platform for our financial success, for the health of our business. And that means we have to market beyond the marketplace. Even though I wasn't able to clearly articulate that statement several years ago, I have always inherently known and believed that. Now, if Meta shut down tomorrow and I lost Facebook and I lost Instagram, would that be horrible for me? Yes, it would. I'm sure there are many people you know who have awesome Facebook groups who drive so much traffic and sales for them, or they have a great Instagram account and they're using ManyChat to generate all these leads and sales. They're growing their email list these ways. Or maybe they're not using social media in the organic ways, but they're driving traffic with ads. And guess what? Those ads come from these companies that could just change at the drop of a dime. So I really don't think that we can become complacent. We have to diversify, not just our income streams, which I know I've talked a little bit about before, but even if you are only, quote unquote, only going to sell on TPT or only going to sell on Etsy or only going to offer some kind of service, I just don't think it's wise for you to only rely on a marketplace. Even Fiverr, which I have been diving deep into these past few months. By the way, I just want to say a shout out to those of you who have bought services from me on Fiverr. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. I just remember my eyes watering when I saw so many orders come through and I knew these names from my email list, and I hope you know how grateful I am for that. I am still small enough that I know all of you. I recognize your first and last names when you have them in your handles. I'm trying to do a better job of expressing that to you, each personally reaching out to you in a message. But even if and when I don't do that, when you order and I see your name pop up, know that I appreciate that. I really do. So I hope that you see it. I hope you feel it. And I'm going to be better at letting you all know that, because I think that's really important. And I think that's a lesson to all of us as small business owners, that when you are small enough to do customer support, to answer questions, even though it's probably not maybe your favorite thing to do, like to go to the TPT Q&A or reviews and respond, that's really, really important, right? I mean, without customers, we don't have a business. So I'm grateful for you, because I don't have a business without you. And yeah, and just again, thank you. I appreciate it. And if you need some work done, I would love to have you hire me on Fiverr. I'm building up my portfolio in reviews there, so I have some pretty amazing deals. So definitely go check that out in the episode description. If you're watching on YouTube, it'll be under the video. If you're listening on your favorite podcast player, it'll be in the episode description. If you want things done in your business, like writing blog posts, getting your emails done, I'm a really good copywriter. Getting social media content done, of course, right? I know posts and I know video editing. I have all kinds of skills I've amassed over the past several years. You can find that information in the description. Okay, so now maybe you're on board with the idea of, okay, Brittany, I hear you. We can't just rely on one place for traffic. We can't just rely on one place for sales. What do we do then? Because I've built up an entire brand and business and set of systems around my Teachers Pay Teachers store, around my Etsy shop, around what I have for sale on Shopify, around my Amazon KDP store. It's a lot. I totally understand that what I'm asking is a big deal, but I think we do have to think how we can market beyond the marketplace in the sense of how are we going to get them there, first of all, because I don't think we can rely on search engine traffic on the marketplaces anymore. One, because the marketplaces are so volatile. Like the marketplaces themselves, they're constantly testing and changing algorithms. I mean, I'm seeing that in Facebook groups even now, that in real time, if you're watching or listening in September of 2024, this still applies even if you're listening in the future. So don't think, oh, this is too old. No, this still applies. But even if you're listening or watching in real time, I'm seeing all these sellers who I know make really good money, either because they're my clients or they're my friends, and they're saying, oh, my sales are down. And these are not people who are just randomly putting stuff up. These are quality sellers. They know their stuff. They are honestly experts in their field. And so I believe them and trust that something is going on algorithmically if they say something is wrong. Now, is it also possible that if someone has been on the platform for a long time, that maybe they are trying to use techniques and tactics that worked years ago and are not working now? Yes, absolutely, that is possible. And I think each one of us have to look at ourselves without judgment, completely objectively, and think, am I really doing best practices right now? Am I really going out of my way? Am I willing to be a beginner to learn a new set of skills? Because it is really uncomfortable. And if you have gotten to the point where maybe your business was mostly or completely passive, it's really hard to feel like, I'm starting over. I'm starting from scratch. And I've definitely had those feelings before too. But the thing is, one, you're never really starting from scratch because you've learned all these other things along the way, right? And two, even if you were completely starting from scratch, well, so is the next person, and you have the opportunity to show up and show out for those first few people who follow you or who view your stuff or see your stuff wherever you are. In fact, I have a Medium challenge coming up that I'm super excited to invite some of you to, so stay tuned for that. I am going to be starting from scratch in a way. I mean, not from content creation. I'm very comfortable with that, even though I have more to learn there too, but I'm going to be building a platform on Medium completely from scratch, and I'm going to be inviting some of you. The reason I say some of you, you're all invited, of course, but I know only some of you will respond. So I should say all are invited, some will come and follow along and do this challenge with me where we try to make $100 in the first month of being on Medium. I just think it's such a fun goal to have. And another goal I like to give is like, okay, if you don't know if you can make $100, can you post at least 30 times? Because everybody can control their own behavior and say, okay, I'm going to commit to post 30 times. I digress. But see, that is one of my creative ways that I'm looking to build my personal brand to get my name, my face out in front of people who I know care about what I have to say, who would also buy from me, and or would be interested in what I have to say as a thought leader. So let me give you another reason you might want to get on Medium, for example, or maybe even Threads or Twitter, because those are social media platforms I haven't talked a lot about, but they are still very valuable. They just have a different purpose. So if you want press, if you want to be mentioned in magazines, which I think is an amazing way to get traffic, by the way, not just site traffic, but to get possible leads and sales, like to grow your email list or to get more followers on your social media platforms. I know followers aren't the most important thing, but it's one step in the process. If you want that, getting in the press is a great way. And journalists are all over Twitter and Threads. So if you show up on those platforms, people will see you. And same thing with Medium. You will have people on Medium who see you, like your work, they've never heard of you before, they've never seen your stuff, and they invite you on their podcast. And sometimes these people have large followings because the people on Medium, from what I found, and by the way, I'll do another episode about Medium where I really dive deep into it, but short version is these are paying subscribers, people who pay to read quality content. So Medium is a really unique platform because they're not at the whim of advertisers like how Facebook and Instagram are. They are completely subscriber funded, which means they exist to make the subscriber happy, which I absolutely love that model. You know I do. So Medium is unique because you get in front of people who are paying to read, they're committed readers, and they're interested in deep dives and topics. I've heard this before from some clients that you like the idea of putting yourself out there and helping people, but you don't like how limited you feel on social media because Reels are only 90 seconds long and you have to be fast. TikToks have to be fast. You don't feel like you have a big personality. You don't feel like you have a certain look or whatever it is, whatever the reason is. If you love writing, you should look at Medium. Now, Medium is unique because you can't really outsource it. You can't use AI. These are people who want to hear actual writing from authorities and thought leaders. So that platform isn't going to work for everybody. But if you're hearing that and you're like, wait a minute, I can get discovered by writing and make money from it. So not just having to wait until I have 50,000 people on my site every month, but I can actually make money within the first 1-2 months of being on there. Yes, very exciting. So we'll be doing a Medium challenge in October. I will share more details, but just to put that bug in your ear now. So that is one place beyond the marketplace of TBT, Amazon, Etsy, where you could start putting yourself out there and start building a name for yourself. And then also, if you want to get into the tech stuff and SEO, then you can also make a backlink for yourself. So then you can link back to your seller website and say, like, hey, this is good quality stuff. If you like this, you should go look at my other stuff I have. You can even put affiliate links, by the way, in Medium articles. So that's something really exciting if you have any products or services that you really like, especially if they make sense for your expertise, and you can put those in your Medium articles as well. Okay, I'm getting so tempted to just go into Medium, and I'm really trying not to here. But that is one way you can market beyond the marketplace. I mentioned Twitter and Threads, or I should say X and Threads. Let me get to those really quickly. Twitter and Threads, very, very similar. Threads is owned by Meta, so you will see lots of cross-promotion between Facebook and Threads, Instagram and Threads. When you're scrolling on Facebook, you might have noticed that there's randomly a Threads post in there, same on Instagram. The platform itself is being promoted. So if you miss the TikTok wave, for example, get on Threads, especially if your strength is not photography, it's not short form video, it's not video editing. You can just be clever and witty, kind of funny or sassy on Threads or Twitter, and you can do really well. And also, you can share your work. I'm not saying that your reach won't be affected if you share links. That's possible, but you can still share links on there. Whereas with TikTok and Instagram, I still think it's worth it, but you have to be a little more strategic, a little more creative in how you get there. But with these text-based platforms, you can put your links, and they are really great for networking. I was actually just talking with Nina Clapperton the other day. I can't remember the order of the episodes. She's either going to be on this podcast before or after this episode. I can't remember. I'm sorry. Go search Nina Clapperton in the Social Media Magic podcast, and you will find it. But we were just talking about how the text-based platforms are really great for networking. And so I was like, okay, I am going to get more on Threads. And I already knew about the cross-promotional piece. But yes, journalists are on Threads and Twitter. The press is on Threads and Twitter. And then also official brands, too. So now I'm going to speak very briefly to the small portion of my audience, people who are actually more in the teacher influencer space, people who do brand deals. Okay, so for you, just a second, or for someone who wants to be that person, you should definitely be on Twitter and Threads because, one, the brands are on there and they're looking for people who are multifaceted. So if they already know you can do the cute outfits, you're a good photographer, you're a good videographer, but you're also witty, you can also write. Now you're a triple threat. So you should definitely get on Threads and or Twitter/X. And the great thing is you can just repurpose a lot of what you already have. I'm not a huge fan of posting the same thing everywhere at the same time. I do think it's a great place to start if you don't want to make content specifically for each platform yet, which I do think you should all get to eventually. So why we market beyond the marketplace, I will just go ahead and recap. One, because we can't rely on the marketplace itself. Two, because the market itself is volatile. We have seen in the last few years just how much things can change. 2020, we all know what happened then, but it wasn't just the pandemic, right? It was also all of the social justice things that were happening, racial issues, national issues, all these different things. Politically, it was a very charged time. I think also because since more of us were at home or we had more time online, we all had more time to respond to things that we were seeing. So it was just a way more charged time than usual, I think. The market is always changing because really when we look at what is the market? The market is just the buying behavior of the people. And people are erratic. It's weird because people are simultaneously predictable and also unpredictable. And we are also not very good at predicting trends. It's just so funny because we have these whole fields around it, like economics, right? And yes, we can kind of see trends. Like if we look on a really big timeline, we can see different trends and phases that nations go through. But in general, especially on an individual level, we're not very good at predicting the future. And we also don't always respond very well. We're also usually not prepared for things to happen. So if you think of it like on a personal level, you've probably heard the financial advice of make sure you have 6 months of emergency funds saved up. I've heard that so many times, even before I was 18. How many people actually do it? I'm on a debt paying journey right now, so my emergency fund is very tiny. Priority has been going to paying down debt. But most people don't even have that, even though they know that's best advice. That's best practice, right? And it's not a dig, it's just how life is. Many of us know what we need to do. We know something is true, but we don't do what we need to do to respond to it, or we don't prioritize it, we put it off until later. Don't put this off until later, okay? Because with the market being so erratic, we're going through a recession right now. We've been going through one really for a couple of years now. But it's getting stronger and stronger. That combined with AI, teachers are going to be making different buying decisions. And if you are going to stand the test of time, if your business is going to last, you need to build an entire brand that isn't dependent on any one marketplace. If I were to base my entire business on Fiverr, I'd probably be in trouble, right? Because Fiverr could do something someday and then that's it. There goes all my income. Same thing for TPT, same thing for Amazon, same thing for Etsy. Now, is it great when the marketplaces are doing well and we make full-time money from that? Yes, absolutely. It's great. And I do think every single business owner should aspire to be on at least one marketplace. Because even if you're not a quote unquote printables person, right? That's not your main offer. If you're a coach, if you're a service provider, I do think you should have printables. I do think you should have digital products because it's just building out a whole offer suite. And I think that's just a smart thing to do. I would tell you if you're a TPT seller, you should also think about having a service or something else because it's just a good idea to diversify your income streams. And same thing here, we need to diversify our traffic. And that means marketing beyond the marketplaces. This is already something I've been talking about a lot. For a long time, I've talked about how important it is to build a community, and I've talked about how I've really built my own brands and companies from a community first. And I don't think I knew how to do that strategically. I think that's what I did just naturally. That's just what I was doing. I don't even know if I really knew what I was doing. I mean, with traveling teachers, I didn't really know if I was going to make that into a business. With my TPT store, that came out of me literally meeting a need, right? I mentioned this before in a reel that my first niche as a TPT seller was actually Google tools. I was obsessed with Google Classroom, with co-writing with students in Google Docs and showing on the screen and editing and writing. I've really been talking about the same stuff. It's just now with you instead of with the kids, but I loved sharing ways that teachers could save time, automate, they could rest more, not spend time on things that didn't matter. When we were using the Wonders curriculum, I figured out a way to do automated spelling tests. So I would have all my students get on computers and we would each put in the word, like I would say it out, use it in a sentence, all that. Instead of writing it down, they would type it in. And then at the end, automatic grading. I did not have to grade spelling tests anymore. Hallelujah. That was 27 things I did not have to do every week from just one assignment. That was my first niche as a TPT seller. And what happened during the pandemic? All of a sudden, my skills, my knowledge was in demand. Even though many teachers did not want to do it, it was now a need. So that is another tip. From a product creation standpoint, which I know you've heard many TPT seller coaches say, is there something you can actually do to meet a need for your teacher, for your customer? Assuming that you've designed products that do meet a need, that are standards aligned, all that, because I'm assuming that, because if that's the problem, then there's not much this podcast will help you with, right? This is assuming you've already proven some success. You already have had some good responses to that. But are you communicating those benefits and that transformation in your email copy, on your sales pages, in your social media content? If not, you need to start. And if you don't have content, and if you've just been relying on your notes to followers, which that's a great place to start. If you have nothing else, start there. But if you've been relying on all the tools the marketplace gives you, it's time to move beyond that. And I would love to help you. I mentioned this before, but I do a lot of those services on Fiverr, even writing your TPT notes to followers. So you can check that out too. But even if you don't hire me or anyone else, just think about that. Think about how you can start marketing off the marketplace. You need a way to get discovered, which when you're on the marketplace, usually that's how you're getting discovered. So you need to think about that. You need a way to keep in touch with them to stay top of mind, and you need a way to sell to them. And I think so many of us have gotten complacent because the marketplaces did all of that for us. And we love it when they just bring us the customers, right? But we need to have a way to build a brand too that's going to have more longevity. It's going to put us in a better position. And the more that we can take everything that's in our brain and put it online and outward facing, the more opportunities we have for income later. Because now we can not just open ourselves up to run a membership, to offer a service, to offer coaching or whatever it is, but now we can also income stack and monetize the actual platforms themselves. So I will leave that there because that is a whole other thing I would love to talk to you all about is income stacking. I hope you got so much out of this episode. I really enjoyed planning it and creating it. If you haven't already, I would love to hear from you over on Instagram at Brittany Verlenich, same way spelled in the YouTube channel URL thingy. I'll be sure to put the QR code somewhere up on the screen. If you've never done it before, take your phone, act like you're going to take a picture, point it at the QR code. You'll see my link pop up. Click on that. It will take you right to my profile. And by the way, you have this feature too. If you're on Instagram, you actually have a whole share profile card now. So take some time, play with your bio, and find that. Thanks again so much for listening to or watching this episode of the Social Media Magic Podcast. Talk soon.